My half-brother ran away from home to my wife because of my stepmom's abuse, and my stepmom demanded that my wife turn him away at the door. Now, they're threatening to cut my wife off from the family if she doesn't apologize for not listening. Posted by you, other_transition_437, I32M, have been married to my wife, Vivian, 29F, for 6 years. We have 3 kids. I have several siblings, but this instance revolves around a half-brother, Trevor, 18M, who lives out of state. Trevor came to visit over his spring break. My stepmom has never liked Trevor, mostly because she doesn't like his mother. About 3 days into Trevor's visit, my stepmom kept making snarky comments about him, his mum, his family, school, his tattoo, etc. Trevor got tired of this, grabbed his car keys, and said he was leaving. This was around 11 p.m. My stepmom laughed and said he didn't have enough gas to get home or money to get more. Trevor said that he didn't need enough gas or money to get home. He just needed enough gas to get to my house. My stepmom laughed again and said I wasn't even home. I was at work, which was true. I worked nights and that Vivian, my wife, would never let him stay there. Trevor said, "I guess we'll see," because he knew Vivian wouldn't tell him no, and he left. My stepmother then called my wife and told her that Trevor was on his way to our house, and that under no circumstances was Vivian to allow him to stay with us. Vivian said she wasn't going to turn him away, especially not in the middle of the night, and that everyone could talk about it tomorrow. She would let me know to call my dad when I got a chance to figure out what was going on. My stepmom began to get angry and said that Trevor was not Vivon's child to allow to do whatever he wants, and Vivon needed to respect her as the mother of the family. She said she could make life in the family difficult for Vivian if necessary so Vivian would understand her place. She also said Vivian had no right to let people into my name's home without my knowledge. Other things were said as well, and eventually Vivian lost her patience and ended the call by saying that my stepmom was just mad she couldn't be a F-bomb bully to Trevor anymore because he found a loophole. My stepmother called me while I was at work and told me Vivian was rude to her. At this point, I had no idea anything had happened. She then called my dad, he works nights as well, and told him some version of events. My dad called me and told me that Vivian was disrespectful, had no right to speak to her that way, and needed to apologize for her behavior. I got a call about 5 minutes later from Vivian. She told me that Trevor was at our house, and they told me everything that had happened since. Vivian hadn't been home, and Trevor hadn't arrived yet when the call occurred. I called my dad and told him it didn't sound like Vivian did anything except stand up for herself. But my dad insisted that Vivian needed to apologize. I told him that if anybody was owed an apology, it was Vivon. This was all 3 days ago. I've been getting texts from family members saying that Vivian needs to apologize, that she doesn't have the right to get involved in family squabbles, and that she shouldn't have let Trevor run away from the consequences of his actions, though no one can tell me what those actions were. They also say that if Vivian doesn't apologize, she's not welcome around anymore. I don't think she owes an apology, but I had a bad relationship with my family for years when I was younger. Since it has improved drastically, I've been a lot happier having them in my life, and I don't want to lose that. But I also can't allow someone in it to disrespect my wife so blatantly and expect an apology for it. Vivian at this point is starting to feel bad. She always stresses too much over anything she thinks she might have done to upset someone. So this really sent her on a series of mental gymnastics. She says she doesn't want to be the reason I have a bad relationship with my family again. I've remained firm that she doesn't owe them anything, but should I let her do it just to get it over with? Top relevant comments. Commenter, you are all adults. Your stepmother went on a bullying rampage, then full bat crap power tripping. She isn't your mother, nor your wife's mother, not even your brother's mother. So where the heck is she claiming the title? And even if she was, you are all adults. She can't make any of you do anything. She has no authority over who enters your and your wife's home, no more than where and what your adult brother chooses to be or do. No, she can't do as she wants. No, she doesn't get to decide what other adults do with their lives. No, she can't force others to follow her orders to bully. No, she doesn't get to do whatever the F she wants, or conduct herself to such a horrific extent without consequences. What is really concerning is how fast she started to be menacing toward your wife. How sure she was that no one would oppose her, certain she could force others into her insane demands. Your wife has nothing to apologize for. She deserves some for the insanity she had to put up with. Your stepmother wants to cause pain and exert control over others. She's reached a quite dangerous level of having lost touch with reality. She sounds actually seriously dangerous. Op's response: she has a daughter of her own from a previous marriage, and she and my dad also have my youngest brother together. They've been married for a long time, so I'm assuming that's where she came up with that line. Commenter 2: here is the thing. The moment you have her apologize is the moment that your stepmom gets a clear go-ahead to abuse your wife and make sure she knows her place in your stepmom's view of family. You can be sad about losing the relationships, but if you step in the direction others are demanding, then at that moment you are enabling your wife to be abused. You are enabling your adult stepbrother to be abused and to have no safe place to escape to. Is having your family and your life really worth that? Knowing your wife from now on can't stand up for herself or for someone else being abused. She has to just sit there and take it so you can have the relationship you want with them. Are you okay seeing that and not saying anything? Do you really think your wife, sweet as she is, will be willing to accept that for the rest of her life? To accept any kids you have or might have being subjected to the same, or to see your family abuse their mother? Your family is willing to cut you both off because you both did not enable one person to abuse another. That should be the issue here. They don't want the drama your stepmom causes. So, it's just shut up and take it. If someone else gets abused, I feel for them, but I don't want it turned on me. Is this really how your mum, dad, and other family raised you? To ignore these things, to accept it because it's family, and instead of being held to a higher standard, they are allowing the abuse and encouraging it. Op's response: you're right. Today was the first day I was off work and able to really sit and think about the whole situation without being bombarded with work and calls left and right. And the more I think about it, the more I've realized there have been a lot of other, albeit much smaller, things she said to my wife that didn't really stick out at the time, and that my wife never brought up again as having bothered her. But now that I'm replaying them in my head, they're bothering me. Trevor's actual mother has found out about it now as well, and called me to ask me to thank my wife for taking him in when he needed real family, as she put it. I do think that going no contact with all of them, minus Trevor, is going to be how this ends. Update 1 day later. First of all, thank you for all the advice and kind words for / about Vivian. I spoke to my dad last night, and I wish I could say it went well, but I think absolutely no one expected it. He put me on speaker, and my stepmother was in the room with him. I said that Vivian will not be apologizing, and she is an adult who can make her own decisions about having a guest in our home. I don't control her decision. My stepmom cut in with, "You're controlling her now by deciding for her she can't make things right." To which I responded, "You might be right about that, but in this instance, it's a risk I'm willing to take. She doesn't have anything to apologize for." I said, "I'm not going to allow you to continue to cause her or myself unnecessary stress." I also told them they can't seriously expect an apology after the way they acted, and if they did, they were borderline insane. You can't bully and belittle someone repeatedly and expect them to be okay with it forever. And you cannot threaten an adult and expect it to just go over nicely. I told them that if they were so willing to act like children and cut Vivian, and by extension me, and our children, out of the family, then we would save them the hassle and do it ourselves. I told them we would be blocking their numbers along with everyone else. They tried to argue more, but I simply hung up, which might have been immature, but I was just done. I blocked everyone's numbers. About an hour later, I got a Facebook message from my stepsister. I rarely use Facebook, so I forgot I had her as a friend on there. My stepsister is the only sibling who isn't my dad's, and is only my stepmom's. She and Vivian have always been really close. She hasn't been involved in this situation at all, so I took the chance and called her. She asked me if everything her mum had told her was true, and I said most likely not. But this is what happened, and I explained it all to her. She then told me several instances where her mum had been similar to her and her fiancé. She said she had wanted to cut ties a long time ago, but didn't want to be the only one in the family who was on the outs, as she doesn't have a dad, so no other family to turn to. She asked if I had really blocked them and planned to keep it that way. I said yes, and so did Vivian and Trevor. She said she'd call me back and hung up. About 20 minutes later, I got a call from her again, saying she had called my stepmom, her mom, and cut the cord with them as well, and had blocked their numbers too. As did her fiancé. So, while I might have lost a decent amount of family members, I did actually get to keep the best two out of the bunch, plus, obviously, my wife and kids. Thanks to everyone for the advice. Top relevant comments. Commenter: it's actually really sweet that this whole blow-up let the stepmom's daughter know she would still have family if she finally cut off her ridiculous mother. And I love that she clarified the situation, asked OP to give her a minute, called her mother to cut her off, then called OP back like, "Hey bro, I dropped the dead weight," to, I just feel awful for the youngest brother, who's still stuck in that house and likely has to deal with being his mum's one and only outlet for her abuse for the next several years. I hope the older siblings can get across to him that they can be safe havens. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stry like this.